Before streaming, before algorithms, before everything was on demand, there was VHS. You didn't just watch these movies, you lived these movies. They sat on shelves, they played on repeat, they were always on cable, and somehow they helped shape who we would all become. Some of these movies were family friendly, some absolutely were not family friendly, but we watched them anyway. These are the movies that built our childhood in the 1990s, not because critics owned them or crowned them as great films, but because we couldn't escape them. They got into us and shaped everything we thought about cinema. This is 90s VHS Legends, Volume 1. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so 90s VHS Legends Volume 1. Now, if you follow me, you know I started this series about a month or so ago with 80s VHS Legends Volume 1, and this is going to be an ongoing series. So if you do not find the movie you're looking for here, just know this is based on research of the most rented movies in the 80s and 90s, and then since I was there, I'm throwing in my own spice of having lived it and knowing that there's more to it than just a bunch of rentals. It's about what these movies meant to us. So we're going to start at number 10 with 1990's Pretty Woman. This movie was inescapable in the 90s. This announced Julia Roberts to the world in a big way. Pretty Woman follows a Hollywood escort, which is a nice way to say it, and a wealthy businessman whose transactional relationship turns into an unexpected real romance. We all know this story thanks to all these VHS viewings, and this story has been redone so many times since then. But somehow it became one of the most watched movies on VHS ever. The edited for TV broadcast wasn't quite the same, if you know where I'm going with that, but on VHS, it lived forever. It introduced Julia Roberts, as I said, as a superstar. It's sort of a modern fairy tale for the 90s. The romance felt glossy and aspirational, which was very, very much a product of its time. It might not have been made for kids in any way, shape, or form, but it absolutely played a role in shaping 90s pop culture memories. Pretty Woman comes in at number 10. Now, number 9 is 1992's Basic Instinct, and this is Paul Verhoeven's forbidden VHS energy. There was a certain spot in this movie on VHS that was kind of wore out. It just seemed like for some reason it had been rewound and played again and again and again. So if you rented this thing, your chances were only about 50-50 that you could even see the part that I'm talking about. And if you lived in the 90s and you know this is a VHS legend, you know the exact part I'm talking about. There was Sharon Stone in the police station. Basic Instinct became infamous for that kind of sexuality, violence, and that neo-noir style told through Paul Verhoeven's satirical lens, and it found its way into living rooms everywhere despite its content. This was VHS legend to get your hands on this thing. Now, eventually it played on late night cable, and that's a video for another time when we dive into those late night cable TV legends. And the heavily edited TV versions just didn't do it. Everybody pretended to see this movie even if they hadn't, but if you could get your hands on that VHS and that one part wasn't wore out, well, you were a legend. And it helped to define the 90s erotic thriller boom because it just took off then. And it was sort of a moment when adult films went mainstream and VHS culture was something slightly dangerous. Even if you didn't fully understand the movie then, I promise you remember it. Basic Instinct comes in at number 9. Now, turning the channel way away from Basic Instinct is 1991's Beauty and the Beast. Now, I don't normally put a lot of animated movies on my list, despite being a huge animated movie fan, particularly old school Disney animation fan. But Beauty and the Beast is one of those. There was a period in the 90s when nothing was bigger than Disney animated movies on VHS, and Beauty and the Beast was one of them. In 1991, it was an institution on VHS, and it sort of marked a turning point for Disney. Disney animation became prestige cinema again. Broadway-style storytelling, a little horror edge, a little action edge, emotional depth that even kids could feel. You could feel all this. The tape was worn out, rented again and again, watched again and again. You had complex villains, complex heroes, romantic themes, dark thematic elements, all of that kind of stuff. For many kids, this is when animation started to feel serious and worthy of repeated viewings. Beauty and the Beast is my all-time favorite animated film. It comes in at number 8. Now, as big as number 7 was at the theater, this is a perfect case of a big movie becoming legend thanks to VHS and its 1991's Robinhood, Prince of Thieves. This was 90s action fantasy comfort food. Even if Kevin Costner didn't do an accent in this movie, it did not matter. The movie is so good. I have the 4K of it right there to this day. Just a great film. This Costner's Robin Hood was just absolutely, it was epic. It was romantic. Insanely, hugely rewatchable, infinitely so. It lived on VHS because it had a little bit of everything for everybody. You had sword fights, you had big emotions, you had cool cinematography, action, and Alan Rickman stealing every single scene that he was in. And let's be honest, the Bryan Adams song played constantly. This is the kind of movie you rewatched every rainy afternoon if you could. You caught it halfway through and you just kept watching it even if it was on cable and not VHS. You quoted the thing without realizing it. It is pure VHS royalty. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, comes in at number 7. Now at number 6, we go back to animation again for 1994's The Lion King. Now, this was VHS in the 90s. It really was. And this is a lot of people's favorite animated Disney movie. The Lion King wasn't just popular, it was a cultural event. Kids watched it, parents watched it, everyone watched it. You got James Earl Jones and Jeremy Irons just absolutely killing it with their performances as Mufasa and Scar. And then, of course, you got Elton John rocking soundtrack here. This really introduced kids and so many people to essentially a Shakespearean type of tragedy as children. It has the iconic music. The emotional stakes were super high for an animated film. They just don't go there. They can't do it the same way anymore. Many of us learned about loss and responsibility and identity through this movie. To this day, there are people, there's one setting right over here, who cannot watch a certain part of this movie. If I just say, Scar, brother, that's all I got to do, and because the power of this movie and VHS helped make it that way. It wouldn't be the same if you could have only seen it at the theater or edited out on TV, but VHS kept this thing alive and it hardly ever left a lot of VCRs. Now at number 5, we go back to Paul Verhoeven again with 1990's Total Recall. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, nobody was bigger than Schwarzenegger and Stallone in the 80s and 90s. Forget about it. And then you pair him up in a sci-fi adventure that's sexy and all that stuff with Paul Verhoeven's satire directed. Listen, absolutely incredible because Total Recall blended sci-fi, action, Cronenberg-style body horror, existential questions about things, and somehow it became a VHS staple and then a cable TV staple. And this was the movie where kids watching it realized, wait, movies, even movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger can be weird, but also absolutely awesome. It felt violent, strange, and grown up, but you had Arnold there. So that kind of made it okay for everybody to watch, despite, 3 breasts and Kuato and, start the reactor Free Mars. You know, all that kind of stuff. This movie's absolutely irresistible and infinitely rewatchable today, except no remakes or substitutes. Those were not the VHS Legends. This one was the VHS Legend. This is the kind of movie, though, that you watched on VHS and you felt like something you probably weren't supposed to be watching, but you did it anyway, and that's what was great about it. Total Recall comes in at number 5. Now, at number 4, we stay in 1994 for Jim Carrey's The Mask. And this movie was everywhere thanks to VHS. The Mask fused really cartoons and live action and that MTV era energy, for a lack of a better way to say it. And Jim Carrey had become an instant icon. If he hadn't already, he did it with this movie. This VHS lived in everybody's house, in their VCRs. You watch this thing on sleepovers, family movie nights. You rewind it just to watch certain parts again. You launch Cameron Diaz, who's absolutely beautiful in this movie. It's loud, it's colorful, it's chaotic. It's actually a little scary, a little dark fantasy in there too. It perfectly captured all of the energy, the craziness, the colors, the over the top of the late 80s that bled into the early 90s. It is all mashed up right there on The Mask on VHS. Now today there are great 4Ks of it, but it made its bones. It became legend on VHS. Now you remember when I said that there was nobody bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone in the 80s and 90s? Well, here we are again with True Lies from 1994. This might secretly be one of the best, 150 movies ever made. James Cameron behind the camera. This was adult action disguised as family entertainment. You got Jim Cameron's True Lies mixed espionage, comedy, explosions, huge jaw-dropping set pieces, all mixed together. It played constantly on cable after the VHS made it legend. This is the movie that taught us about big budget spectacle. Now me, I was a little older, so I had already seen big budget spectacle, but if you were coming of age right around this time, here you go. The action was funny in here, all of that kind of stuff. There's romance, there's interpersonal relationships. Arnold proved here that he was more than just muscles. This is a pure VHS heavyweight of a movie. True Lies comes in at number 3. Now, when we talk big legends, it doesn't get bigger than 1993's Jurassic Park. Listen, Jurassic Park changed everything. Now, Steven Spielberg behind the camera on this, my favorite director of all time, but Jurassic Park wasn't just a movie. It was a technological awakening that really, with all of our computers and technology today, it can't compare to the original Jurassic Park in how well it holds up, how real it looks, how engrossing it is. The T-Rex attack, the velociraptors in the kitchen, the water ripples, the shaking jello, countless parts. Hold on to your butts, Sam Jackson said. This movie was awe, it was terror, it was wonder. It was actually at the movie theater for well over a year. And this one single VHS cassette sold over 50 million copies in the United States. And for many kids, this was the moment that movies felt real. This was their introduction to cinema as a spectacle that could be taken seriously. Jurassic Park has no equal when it comes to that. It comes in at number 2. Now, you remember that whole Arnold and Stallone thing again? Well, here in Volume 1 of 90s VHS Legends, Arnold Schwarzenegger takes the top spot with Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This is the ultimate 90s VHS legend. T2 had everything. Now, a lot of people consider it to be better than the original. I teeter-totter back and forth. I'm a big fan of the original now. It's more like a horror slasher sci-fi movie. I dig the original. I dig the second one too, and there's no doubt it was a VHS legend, especially with that intro, the, bad to the bone, all that kind of stuff, getting on the motorcycle, groundbreaking effects, very well done turn of a villain to a hero, so you had emotional storytelling, action that still holds up today. All of Arnold's action, Stallone's action, all of that stuff still holds up today. It played endlessly. Like once the VHS ran its course, it has played to this day endlessly on cable and broadcast. But the VHS, the sleepovers, the living room floors, hooking your VCR to the back of an old CRTV with a splitter if you had to, whatever you had to do to get that VCR hooked up, to make it work, to pop that VHS in and watch Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and watch Arnold give his thumbs up. Come on, man. This movie taught kids that machines like Arnold could be a hero, that action movies could have heart, and that sequels, in some people's eyes, could be better than the original. It didn't just build our childhoods, it redefined blockbuster cinema. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, comes in at number 1 on Volume 1. And there you go. These movies, they weren't just hits. These movies were our companions. They sat on shelves, they played in the background, they shaped our taste, our knowledge, and all of those things without us even realizing it. And this is just Volume 1. So I want you to tell me, which VHS tape did you wear out? Which one belongs on Volume 2? Because the 90s didn't just give us movies, just like the 80s. They built us. And that's what I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, y'all. That really does help out the channel. If you'd like to help support what we're doing here a little bit more, you can join my Patreon. The link is down in the description, and you'll get your name in lights on every single video like a big VHS Blockbuster event, and you'll get behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, deep dive 4K physical media reviews, and so much more. And everything goes right back into the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. Bye now.